This SoonerScoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. If you're ready to see the rest of the world just as clearly, get your fresh perspective at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIX.
Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich, Bob Przybylo here from the SoonerScoop.com studios. Welcome back to the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. And what a lovely evening it was at Oklahoma City for the Oklahoma softball team. They come back and run rule. And I say come back. They were down 3-0 in the third inning, but come back, run rule, Oklahoma State. You head into the weekend now. They're headed out on the road, headed to Tuscaloosa to take on the Crimson Tide over a Saturday, Sunday, Monday series. A little bit different for the SEC, but Bob, back home, I guess you could say, back home at Devon Park up at Oklahoma City. What a comeback and what a win for the number 2 team in the country, who is now 35-3. I think that hand up, there was some things being said in the first 3 innings. It was like, okay, well, this doesn't look good. What a comeback, though, for Oklahoma. And it sounds like Patty Gasso was extremely pleased with the performance on Tuesday night.
Yeah, you couldn't ask for a worse start, right? You had Sam Landry boots the ball, leads to a run. Nelly has an error, leads to another run, the solo homer, and you're like, when are they going to wake up? And Cassie Pickering, 2-run shot. I think that kind of turned the tide a bit. And then Lana Agbayani's diving catch is the play of the game.
I don't want to be like too dramatic about it, but it seems like the 4th inning, that if Oklahoma is able to go on to a regional or a super regional or, defend the 4-time national title, you're going to go back to that Bedlam 4th inning when Sam Landry, the bases are loaded. She's able to get a strikeout thing, or I guess get the diving play that saved 2 runs. It's 3-2 for sure. That's going to score probably 2 runs. You're able to get out of it, though. You get the diving stop by Agbayani. You get the strikeout and then a ground out, and all of a sudden the momentum had turned.
Exactly. And then Maya Bland, who we all know for her speed.
Sure.
3-run homer, and then just the wheels fell off OSU. Ruby Malin, they sent her out after they made an error, and then OU made that count by getting 2 more in the 4th inning, a 5-run 4th that just opened the floodgates and the confidence for the Sooners compared to OSU. That 30-minute span just changed everything.
Certainly seems like it changed the dynamic. Maybe not so much of the season, but maybe from a confidence standpoint. I know that Patty talked about after the game, the dugout, and how intertwined they were with their teammates on Tuesday evening in Oklahoma City. Let's go back to last weekend as well, the Okana Invitational. It kind of seems like Ella Parker's starting to wake up a little bit or get back to what we were used to seeing from Ella Parker. Had the Grand Slam last weekend, was 3 for 3 on Tuesday night against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, she had the Grand Slam, and when you see her touch home plate, it's like she's just mobbed by every single teammate. It's like they were all waiting for this moment for her celebrate. She let out just a massive scream. It's like finally, it's coming together. And to back that up with Bedlam, with what she was able to do with the hits, driving into runs, I mean, that is the best performances we've seen from her in a long, long time. It almost felt, Patty has embraced being the evil empire, being like Darth Vader. I felt it's like Thanos. You got Audrey Lowry coming back. Ella Parker coming back. Like getting all the Infinity Stones.
The gang's getting back together.
Yeah,
you're going to have to explain that to me. I'm not a movie guy. Everybody knows that.
They're all coming together for, at just the right time, getting healthy, ready for the stretch run, ready to show, hey, we're ready to try to do it one more time.
Even despite the struggles offensively, Cassidy Pickering continues to have an excellent year, and it seems like you just got to get her to Oklahoma City because I think she's hitting like 800 at Devon Park.
It was ridiculous when what she's been able to do this last month, and then you go to last night, Maya Bland's in the 9-hole. Cassie did in the leadoff spot, so the only way this works to have Cassie be able to drive in Maya is because of the way Patty manipulated that lineup. Was it for one game only? I'm really not sure, but Pickering made it count. She's just seeing the ball so well. The patience at the plate, she's either going to get a walk or she's going to drive in people. She's just on a next level. I don't know if I've seen anything like it since I've been doing this.
That's amazing, considering all the great hitters that have been through here over the last couple of years, and just a sophomore, right?
Just a sophomore, and just someone who has a plan of attack and executed it at such a high level every single game. So impressive to watch during this last month.
Obviously, they're going to step back into conference play coming up this weekend, a trip down to Tuscaloosa, a familiar opponent in Pat Murphy's club. It seems like every year Alabama is going to be in the mix, obviously, to try to get back to Oklahoma City. 28-15 this year. Oklahoma coming off of the Tennessee loss 2 weeks ago, obviously, when they lost the series to the Vols. But it seems like this thing's starting to maybe turn a corner, and maybe you're seeing some of the low points or the lessons that were learned from the Tennessee series.
You could see it Wednesday with Sam Landry. It was the same home plate umpire from the 8-inning affair Friday night against the Vols.
Ooh, I like this.
And we know there was a question about the strike zone and Sam said she didn't blast it, obviously.
Sure.
But she's like, it took me too long to adjust against Tennessee. Way too long to adjust. That's how I needed to pitch. And instead, against Cowgirls, did not take nearly as long. And after that first inning, she was about as good as you could have asked for, except for one pitch for that solo homer. So you are seeing it. You're seeing the young girls grown up. You're seeing the newcomers get more acclimated and more comfortable in the settings that they're going to be in time and time again. But, Patty kind of gave me grief for the question. I'm like, sorry, it's got to be asked. Bedlam's done, but now it's time for Bama.
Sure.
And because, what you've done the last 2 weeks and going 4 straight wins, that's all non-conference. Now,
right.
This means something, and also you're going on the road. When you're talking about RPI, road wins matter so much more. And if you can do it against Bama Saturday, Sunday, Monday, then you really feel like, wow, not only have they turned this corner, they might be on their way to feeling like they're the best team in the country once again.
Oh, no. They reminded themselves who they were. They looked in the mirror. Alabama coming off of a weekend series loss to LSU last weekend. 5-7 in conference play. It certainly doesn't seem like this is the Alabama team that you might have become familiar with here over the last decade, really, since they've become in Oklahoma City. It seems like every single season.
That's what we've said about Missouri and Bama. They haven't had the seasons that they thought. And then South Carolina and Arkansas have gone the other way.
Which helps Oklahoma's RPI, speaking of.
They've been incredible since after what the Sooners have done for them. So that paper-thin resume, perhaps, for OU in the non-conference, working itself out. But now you go on another tough road trip, and, one that I asked, too emotional of a game like Bedlam? And Pat's like, no. If we could go right now, we would.
Sure.
This is a great feeling, the way that they bounce back, score 11 straight, and you start showing the signs of maturity that you're going to need rest of the way.
They showed a graphic during the broadcast on Wednesday night during the game, basically like the schedule for the rest of the year, just in terms of conference championship or conference tournament weekend, and then the regionals and super regionals and Oklahoma. Not too far off. Only 3 conference series left. Mississippi State coming up next weekend after Alabama, and then you have Texas and Florida. It's kind of crazy that we're getting to the end of this, and you're starting to talk about RPI. Obviously, Oklahoma are positioned well to host and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
We're talking about super regional. You want to be a top 8 national seed, and then obviously the road back to Oklahoma City coming up.
And there's Patty using those three letters. She doesn't do that. That is
sure
not too often will she talk about the RPI, but because of the way the non-conference went, and UCF was a nice little boost. OSU is clearly a boost. Now, if you can get Bama, now you're sitting on the right side of that. You have the resume that suggests you might be a number 1 overall seed. It might be the Texas series that will determine it when it's all said and done. But very impressive what they've been able to do since Tennessee. They said it had to be a learning experience. It sure as heck has felt like it was just that.
With Sam Landry, obviously, she's your ace in the circle, is kind of a big question mark about can Kirsten Deal back up what she did 2 weeks ago against Tennessee?
There was a part of me that thought maybe Patty would go Kirsten Deal against OSU and say, we're going to need you in this very same facility coming up in a couple months. So show me what you can do. Instead, we had Sam versus Ruby, which everyone wants to see. So that was pretty cool. But now with Deal, you got to figure she's going to get the ball maybe Sunday. I think Sam should be healthy enough to go Saturday. I don't think that would be an issue. So if Deal gets the ball again Sunday, show what you did against Tennessee. Show it was more than just a one-off, really great performance against the Vols, and that you can be a consistent number 2. Or will you have to ask that of Audrey Lauer, the true freshman, say, you're going to need to be ready for this moment. It was great to get her some innings last Friday against the Knights. Now she's healthy. She's ready to go. And it just, again, feels like everyone's coming together at just the right time.
Pray for the rest of the softball world, it seems like. National broadcast on Saturday at 3 o'clock, and then on ESPN2, and then SEC Network for the next 2 games on Sunday and Monday. Sunday at 5 o'clock start, and then a 6 o'clock start on Monday. Just kind of weird how they do that.
It is.
With the softball, obviously the baseball side of things, Thursday through Saturday, which Oklahoma baseball did play, believe it or not, over the weekend.
Oh, boy.
Not good right now. They are on a 4-game losing streak. 23-9, 5-6 in conference play. They get swept by LSU last weekend, and as bad as Oklahoma played offensively, they're in a slump right now. And it's almost 1 through 9. I swear, every time we do this,
every time we start talking baseball,
every time we start talking baseball, we're good now. I think. I thought LSU was really, really good. And you might be talking about one of the better teams in the country alongside Tennessee. Obviously, they might be a leaps and bounds better than everybody right now. But it was a rough weekend. You get beat 2-0 in a pitcher's duel on Thursday night. The opener, Kate Anderson strikes out 14. Oklahoma leaves 6 on, and that became a little bit of a theme of the weekend as they go out 10-2 on Friday, probably a little bit more competitive than that final score indicates. Leave 9 on in that game, and then Saturday, a 3-2 decision that I don't want to put it all on one guy, but Kyle Branch makes an error. It's a 2-run error, and that's kind of the way that it begun. That was early in the game, in the, I want to say, second inning. So they got to figure this thing out offensively. They're not getting a whole lot of hits right now. I know you're going against really good competition and really good pitching, but at the same time, it's concerning, I would say, Bob, just with the inability to get hits.
How surprising was that Anderson start? Did that maybe shake him?
Well, I mean,
wait a minute. This guy's not supposed to do this.
All I could remember was talking on last Thursday when we were talking on the Stickball report, and you asked me about the LSU pitching staff, and it's like, offensively, that's been the product for success, or the recipe for success. And Kate Anderson was phenomenal. I mean, he shoved it down their throat. I don't know any other way to say it. And so you thought, okay, you get through Friday. Kyson had pitched really well. Try to scratch out a game in the weekend, maybe even win the series if you can come back on Saturday. Kate Crossland pitched pretty well, but yet again, it was the offense that kind of failed them. Even a game that you give up 10 runs. And if you want to be real positive about it, I thought Malachi pitched well on Sunday in the 3-2 loss. Gave 5-6 innings, I believe it was 6. But everybody else from the pitching standpoint, I thought was excellent over the weekend. Even some of the guys that are coming in through the bullpen, they continue to show that they can be guys that are counted on. In fact, Skip said that on Friday night after the game, and he kind of doubled down on Thursday morning when we talked to him on the radio, that was probably the best Jamie Hitz ever pitched in an Oklahoma uniform, and that continues
really
to be
appearance.
That continues to be a little bit of a underlying story, especially if you can get to the postseason, and then you can rely on a bullpen backed up with what they're starting to develop on the mound in the rotation, the starting rotation.
You get through Saturday. I know you're disappointed. Does that make Tuesday hurt more, the way that they responded?
Yeah, I thought that they were going to bounce back, and you lose 9-1 on Tuesday night to Dallas Baptist. They've now outscored Oklahoma 20-1 in the 16 innings that they played. Obviously, didn't get run ruled this time like they did the first time around, 11-0. But yeah, I was a little disappointed just with the overall performance. I mean, they kind of got their ass kicked on Saturday or on Tuesday yet again by a Dallas Baptist team that is still a great program. Dan Hefner's done an incredible job down there. I think anybody that is tuning into a Stickball report would know that. But at the same time, it's been kind of uncompetitive. And I think that's a little bit concerning here moving forward because, once again, much like softball, you're starting to look at the schedule. You're starting to look at RPI and regional projections and stuff like that. They're kind of in the middle of it right now. They're kind of fighting to not necessarily get into the NCAA tournament or anything like that, but you're fighting to try to still host a regional in Norman, and that might be slipping away, and especially with a really good Vanderbilt team coming in this weekend.
Yeah, is it good to be staying home? Like, this is the last kind of weekend here at home to make a real dent and try to keep themselves above water. You think they're still top 16?
Yeah, I think that they're probably somewhere in the mix of that, I don't know, 16 to 30. I know that that's kind of a big area, a big gap. But at the same time, I think that like you get all those teams together and it kind of seems like they're all kind of the same. Yep. They all go through the highs and lows of a season. And right now, obviously, is a low right now for this team. It is kind of interesting because like I think like when teams are struggling, sometimes I think, and I've talked to Skip about this, it's better to get out onto the road. Obviously not doing that this weekend. You're on the back end of a 7-game homestand that you're currently 0-4. So the weather's going to be nice. Hopefully the park can be packed. That was kind of the downside, the negative side of last weekend with LSU. The weather was shit.
Awful.
It was terrible. It was terrible. But LSU had to play in the same thing, and we'll see how they can kind of dig themselves out of this. A little update on Scott Mudler, because I asked Skip about this on Thursday morning as well. Kind of seems like Easton's getting worn out. He's having to catch every game. It does sound like Scott Mudler is on the road to recovery. Obviously, the dislocated shoulder against Mississippi State. I would still be a little bit surprised if we saw him in the field this weekend, but I do think maybe you could see him in a DH role, and that would obviously be a positive moving forward because, simply put, you need to get Easton out of the having to catch every inning of every game. So we'll watch on that. Keep an eye on it, and we'll see. Vanderbilt's a really good team. Obviously,
go ahead and break it down.
Pat
the
Corbin's,
doors.
He's been incredible. I mean, what he's been able to build at Vanderbilt, they're a national powerhouse, and I don't think that they're as good as they have been, but I think that's also a product of the SEC and what the top teams in the league are doing. So it's a really good test this weekend to kind of see where this thing is at. See if they can start getting some offensive production, which is it's simply been a miserable struggle right now.
Do you feel it's been bad at bats? They've been unlucky, combination?
All the above.
All the
which
above.
It makes you feel a little bit better when you can point to one thing and say, yeah, they're just not doing this. It seems like it's a little bit of everything, and I think they're being a little bit impatient at the plate, trying to attack fastballs early. And then, Carrie and I were talking about the LSU series. It seemed like for half the lineup when they stepped into the box, they were already down 0-2. And it makes for tough living when you're going against a really good staff like LSU had. So you're going to see the same thing this weekend with Vanderbilt. Power arms, and it's going to be really, really interesting to see if they can kind of dig themselves out of this because it's a struggle right now, and it's kind of the struggle. And I think that maybe the reason that it's so concerning is because there was a lot of guys, whether it be guys that we had talked about, Trey Gamble, Sam Christensen, Dayton Taki, they had really good starts to the season, and now you're starting to see them hit a wall. And unfortunately, it's all of them at the same time. Kyle Branch struck out like 7 times over the weekend, so. You just don't want to have that affect them defensively, and I think that you saw that with Branch this past weekend. Made the error on Sunday after struggling for the first 2 days at the plate. It's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, where are they going to next weekend?
The baseball team, that's a good question. I was looking at it just a minute ago.
Because now they're going to be leaving Norman for a little bit.
I think they go up to Missouri next weekend, which should be a very comfortable situation. Missouri's just flat out not a good baseball team. Let's be honest. They committed 8 errors on Tuesday night in a win. So you want to be able to get out of this rut. And I think that it's going to be imperative that they find a way to win 2 or 3 this weekend to kind of just right the ship and get everybody more calm to where they have been. Because I think right now nobody's pushing a panic button. Skip Johnson is he's like the prime example of somebody that is consistent with what he's bringing to the locker room every day. But after Tuesday night's game, I could sense a little bit of frustration and. I don't know how long Patty makes you guys wait after the game. Usually it's a 15-minute in and out thing with baseball.
It is, yeah.
It was about 30 minutes. I think they had a little bit of a heart-to-heart after a 9-1 loss on Tuesday night.
I think the longest was the second Bedlam loss last year.
Yeah.
That was a long wait.
All right, well, it sounds like the softball team...
Not so much now.
Definitely headed in the right direction for Patty Gasso's group. We'll see what Skip Johnson's group can bring this weekend to the Diamond. This has been another Stickball report. Bob, we appreciate it. Nice little weekend away, too. It's been busy around these parts here as basketball continues to ramp up. Real quick before we get out of here, Nigel Pack, Tay Davis. I can't believe that Nigel Pack is playing basketball in Norman. It's incredible.
It really is. And it tells you about resources that Porter Moser has harped on time and time again.
Certainly seems like it's up from what it was a year ago.
Exactly. He did it again last week when he was there for the coaches convention to get Tay Davis, get Nigel Pack. I mean, you check off two massive wins to begin things that allows you sort of more freedom to what you want to do here. Like, you need a complementary piece or two. There's no doubt about that. And I know one thing they're eyeing right now is a shooter. They've got to get a shooter. We've looked at it as like all these guys they keep bringing in, not exact, they're okay shooters, but where's like that marksman that, they always try to aim for. And so I think that'll be the next piece to fall. But I'm wondering, like, when you start off so well, you're allowed that luxury to maybe shoot for the moon and see if you can get someone that maybe even 2-3 weeks ago you never thought you had a chance.
That'll be fun to watch. I'm sure that you will be keeping everybody apprised on the Crimson Quarter of the happenings with basketball. Good news, though, getting Nigel Pack and Tay Davis. They're guys that are certainly going to come in and be contributors from day one.
You're not going to worry about. You're not going to worry about them making the leap.
Right.
Like, can he go from so-and-so to a power four?
Right.
No, they've got power four experience, power four production. You're not worried in the least of them being able to compete.
I'm still super interested to see what Josh and Nwankwo and Jaden Jones will bring to the lineup, whether that be as starters or guys off the bench. Because I remember you talking, even coming out of the summer last year before Josh got hurt, he was kind of making waves as maybe one of Oklahoma's best players before the season even began, and obviously got lost with the Achilles injury.
Yeah, that's what Porter mentioned, Jeff. Nwankwo was the best player on offense and defense through the early part of the summer before his Achilles injury, and then Jadon Jones with the back. It's great to see that all those guys said, yeah, we're going to return.
Retention, Bob.
Don't worry. We're not bolting the season of just getting paid and not playing. So you got your 5 guys back. Now you got your 3-man signing class, couple in the portal, add a few more pieces, kind of like what they're doing here. It
seems like, and I don't know, you'd probably be able to tell me better, that they are building a little bit of momentum, and maybe it is ironic that it coincides with them finally getting over the hump into the NCAA tournament. Maybe the pitch to a Tay Davis or a Nigel Pack comes with a little bit more punch when you say, look, we made the NCAA tournament. We obviously made strides last year as a program.
Exactly. And, they just feel so good about what they're trying to get accomplished in terms of their analytics, in terms of how they're constructing the roster. And, they've been able to address, feels like every year they address something that maybe they had a blind spot to the year prior. And I think this time around it was the power 4 experience.
Sure.
Instead of taking more chances, more flyers on guys. Maybe you do that for like roster spot number 13.
Right.
Like, okay, let's see if he can make the leap. And if he can't, that's fine. But when you get guys like Davis and Pack and you show them, okay, like this is where you would fit in. Here's the guys that are around. This is what we can do. I think there's definitely a little bit more juice at this moment right now compared to where we were at this point last year.
The vibes are strong. I like that. All right. For Bob Przybylo, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll see you back here next week for another Stickball Report.